Why does I-94 have to be an omnibus? Really, it's an 18-page bill. If we agree on all of these very minor measures, then why not start with the minor measures upon which we agree? Why is it loaded up like a shopping cart with measures with which a lot of people disagree?
What do you think it's loaded up? We're going to get into transfers, right?
Well, yes. I mean, the definition, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds because we talked about this earlier, but yes, the definition of transfer is incredibly vague in the bill.
So a couple of things about transfers on that. And one, this bill was modeled after Oregon and California, which have had...
Being from California, it's worked beautifully.
Which has had... hundreds of thousands of background checks, and we haven't had, there hasn't been one instance of somebody put in jail for a transfer. Secondly, the key thing on a transfer is that you have to knowingly circumvent the law. In other words, you have to be a black market dealer, or otherwise you're not going to be criminalized for it. That transfer issue is put in there to affect this individual at gun show. So gun shows are private sales. You can sell a couple of guns, but you had black market dealers that were selling 50 AK-47s a session against the law. Those people should have been, by definition, federally licensed firearm dealers. So it's designed at some point to prevent the bad guys from doing it. It's not a gotcha. Nobody wants gotcha for the average everyday citizen put in jail, and it will not happen that way because we have precedent in California and Oregon.
Well, it should be, okay, let me tell you a little bit about the precedent in California for a second. In California, there are 30,000 mentally ill people who have guns. They have a grand total of 33 people, really, in the state of California who are tasked with taking these 30,000 guns away from these 30,000 mentally ill people. Okay, we're creating a system that is either not going to be enforced or it's going to be over-enforced. This idea, if we can just trust the government, then why aren't we just trusting the government to do the right thing now? I don't understand why a piece of legislation makes them better at what they do. I mean, the government is not very good at what they're doing now. Why does new wording make them not suck?
Because part of the reason you have a law or initiative as a deterrent, that government won't even be involved, that the bad guys won't be going to gun shows to buy guns, so they have to circumvent it.
Well, but that's exactly the point. If bad guys are not going to gun shows with regard to Ebola, and for a second, this is a mild digression. With regard to Ebola, the federal government just made the case that they don't want a federal travel ban, right? Because they said if there's a federal travel ban, people will just find a way to circumvent the federal travel ban. Okay, do you see the analogy here?
Yeah, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm here to talk about guns. And most people are law-abiding citizens on that. So, you know, I think one of the reasons you have laws is a deterrent to make sure that people do the right thing.
Well, I agree, but this is the attendant cost, right? If there are law-abiding, the cost is a law-abiding citizen, for example, under the bill, who wants to loan a gun to a family member for purposes of defending themselves. The bill talks about it has to be in the case only of the most basically emergency situations. Well, how does the government define that? It's undefined in the bill. Right? I mean, so I have a cousin or I have a sister-in-law who feels endangered by her husband. If I give her the gun and she says, I feel endangered, and she keeps it for a week, but the government only decides that she was endangered for 3 days, and the gun is stolen and used, then she can be prosecuted, I can be prosecuted, as well as the criminal.
And you'll never be prosecuted. It's never happened.
So again, it comes down to faith in government.
You'll never be prosecuted. There's precedent here. You'll never be prosecuted. Use your best judgment and don't knowingly break the law.
Then why don't we just pass a referendum that says, please, prosecutors, do good stuff?
Let me do a follow-up.
I think that you have to acknowledge the reality, regardless of which end of the ideological spectrum you're on, that this idea that the relationship between a corporation and a worker is an entirely voluntary one is a figment of our imagination. The reality is that the relationship depends upon the balance of power. Because if you were to really believe that it's totally a voluntary relationship, then you should be arguing for child labor, because that was legal at one time, and that was argued as a beneficial thing for the economy. So we have to understand that it's a balance of power. We're moving ever so slightly away
from whether we need customers with more money to have that that base, but we'll be addressing some of the underage working here shortly. Ben,
yeah, I mean, I'll refrain from talking about child labor, especially given the fact that the rationale for child labor laws is that children are incapable of consent, right? I mean, that's the rationale for
Although
child
your
labor
child
laws.
did appear on television last night.
She did, without her consent. But I will tell you that she immediately joined SAG-AFTRA.
The rationale for child labor to be legal was that children are exploitable, more exploitable. That's why businesses wanted it, and people had to fight against it.
Businesses may want it, but the fact is that the children are not capable of consent, which is why the legislation was appropriate from all ideological points of view. In terms of whether basically this trickle-up economics, this idea that if you pay people $15 an hour, it will help the general economy. It's evidencing a differential point of view with regard to how money is invested and what makes your life as a consumer better. The truth is that Mother Teresa did less good for the world than Bill Gates, as a general matter. Because more people gained their jobs through Bill Gates, more people have a product that Bill Gates created, more people's lives have been bettered through Bill Gates. Mother Teresa did a lot of wonderful things. But the reality of the situation is that what makes your life better than people's lives were 50 years ago is all the new products and services developed by all the rich people who hire you. All of you out there who I'm sure are not rich, are you working for a poor person right now? Who is hiring you? Who's paying your salary? Unless you're working for the government, and even then you're not working for a poor person, you're paying for the rich people who actually pay the taxes that pay for you to work for the government. So this idea that economic growth is a function of people making $15 an hour versus $14 an hour is simply not true. The reality of the situation is that what makes the economy grow is new products and services that make your life better and which require millions of dollars in research and development. And as far as the point that was made about the salary of the CEO of Walmart, all I can say is this. Walmart has approximately, they're the biggest employer in the country. They have something on the order of 2 million employees across the country. Let's say we agree that 20 million is too much. And let's say that we cut that salary to zero. Great, we just gave everybody $10, right, for the year. So let's stop pretending that the vast wealth imbalance inside Walmart is causing poverty for people at the bottom.